Welcome back to the Making of Bird game, the game where you play as a baby phoenix that's trying to reach the sky. In the last video, I updated some of the animations and effects, and while some of them are just placeholders, overall they improved the game feel tremendously. Today I'm going to explain how I continued to improve the graphics, despite running into a few problems with the pixel art. I even considered completely changing the look of the entire game to make it easier, but I think I found a solution that works for me. My first task was adding some detail to the background because that's one of the main criticisms in my other videos. I haven't talked about it much, but I want the setting to be a spooky, magical forest. And right now there's nothing spooky or magical about all this blue. These are some references I found on Google on the vibe that I'm going for. I like the idea of it being a forest in winter with not a lot of leaves and a bunch of moss climbing up all the trees. I made some rough outlines of the trees in Sprite and imported them into Unity. The reason I'm starting with importing rough outlines is because I want to add a parallax effect to the different layers of the trees before I add any detail. A parallax effect is when objects in the distance move slower than the objects closer to the camera. It's an easy way to give the background some depth. I watched Adam Eunice's video on parallax backgrounds to help write the script, and this is what it looks like after implementing it in Unity. It's a good start, but not quite the spooky magical forest I'm going for. At least not yet. For that, I'm going to skip ahead and add some fog. I consulted a few different videos deciding on how I want to make this effect, but I eventually decided on using shaders after watching this video by Sasquatch B Studios. Apparently, you can use auto-generated noise to make a texture that can move and be rendered in world space while only following the camera, which will make it good for performance. If you want to learn exactly how it works, just go watch the video, but after stumbling my way through it, I managed to make some fog. There was only one small issue. My game uses pixel art, and this effect is not pixelated. This is a problem that some of you also noticed in my last video, where I made these effects using Unity's particle system. And you're right, they do feel a little out of place with the other art in the game, but at the time I didn't really know how to fix it. Someone mentioned in the comments that I could use the upscale render texture option in the Pixel Perfect camera. This option basically renders the game in a lower resolution and then upscales it. I didn't know it existed before, and when I tried it, it did fix a few things, but it also raised a few more problems. The things it fixed were the particles, they became pixelated, and the player could no longer stand between pixels, which is something that I didn't really address in any previous video, but nobody really seemed to notice. And the other problems are pretty obvious just by looking at some footage. The player sprites keep shifting, and this one I'm pretty confident I can fix. I think the sprites aren't perfectly centered, and that's causing the sprite to shift the pixel because of the upscaling. Either way, I think I can probably fix this one. But I would also like to direct your attention to the background. The parallax script I just added is causing the background to jitter. If it was a static background with no parallax, this wouldn't be a problem. But since the movement is so subtle and the resolution is so small, it just looks bad. If I double the reference resolution, it gets rid of the pixel shifting problem in the player sprites, but the background still looks jittery. Even though using this option easily fixes some of the problems with the effects, I don't know if it's going to be worth using because of the other issues it causes. But it's also super easy to just click the button. I don't know if I want to spend a bunch of time finding another solution. At this point, I have a decision to make. Do I want to make my game pixel perfect even though it might cause jitteriness and limit the kinds of effects I can use? Or do I want to not make an authentic pixel art game and risk having the pixel art style work against me? And to make things harder, while I was thinking about this, I stumbled across a video by Mark from GMTK, and he said something that really scared me.
I mean, there's this button in Unity for a pixel perfect camera, and I kind of just assumed I could turn that on and things would be perfect.
What? What do you mean I can't just turn them on and have things work perfectly?
Which is dumb and naive.
Hey! Well, okay, he's not wrong. Mark's video made me realize that I might have the same problem, so I went on a short little side adventure to make some graphic settings to test what my game would look like when it was actually built. And I'm happy to report that I intentionally accidentally dodged Mark's problem because I originally made my game's native resolution to be 320 by 180, and that resolution scales up nicely to all the common monitor sizes. Unfortunately, Mark did his originally in 720, which means it wouldn't scale nicely and there would be extra pixels in some place where they shouldn't be. So crisis averted. Just don't play the game on a vertical monitor or anything weird. It'll letterbox, and I'm gonna have to fix that UI in case someone plays on a vertical monitor, aren't I? Alright, I'll put it at the bottom of my to-do list, but worst case scenario, if you only use a vertical monitor, just play it in windowed mode. This is really not important right now. Anyways, I'm glad I happened to look up the canvas size before I got started, but I still think I can learn something from Mark's video. Even though my problem isn't exactly the same, it was still an issue caused by using pixel art. Let's see what he came up with.
I could get rid of all the pixel art and replace all of the graphics in the game with brand new 4K ready artwork.
Well, I'm not sure I want to do that. Not only am I bad at drawing, I kind of like the pixels. Yes, it may be true that a lot of my problems would just be solved by upgrading the art, but I think I'd lose part of the game's identity. That solution would almost definitely work, but I'm not sure it's the right one for me. And despite that, Mark did say something that's very relevant to me. His advice was, and I'm paraphrasing here, to suck it up and do the real solution because it will save you time in the long run. And that got me thinking, where did this whole side quest even start? I was looking for an easy way to pixelate my effects. Maybe I should just suck it up and find something better than a one-button solution. Unfortunately, at this point, even if I found something that works for the effects, it wouldn't fix the other times where my game isn't pixel perfect. But now I'm thinking, and I'm definitely open to feedback on this, is that even actually a problem? Maybe it's one of those things that you can't unsee once you notice it, but personally, I don't really mind that the bird can stand in between pixels as long as the movement feels good. And if enough people think it looks bad, I could see myself upgrading the art but still keeping it simple. But I don't know, nobody really seemed to notice, and I might just be being a perfectionist about something that doesn't actually matter. And like I said, I'm open to feedback, and as always, there is the comment section down below, but if you want another place to express these opinions, join my new Discord server. I realized I need a more consistent way to ask for feedback, and some people have been asking for it, so I figured I'd just make one. The link to join will be in the description. Even after all of that, I'm still stuck with the same problem I had at the beginning. How do I make effects turn into pixel art? It seemed really inefficient to do them all by hand, so I spent some time looking at different ways I could do this. I will save you some time and say that shaders are actually really useful and also very cool. You can do so much with shaders, and yes, I was able to make a shader that converts effects into pixel art, including the particle effects I made in the last video. I'll link some of the resources I used in the description, but oh my gosh, I spent so much time fixing a solution to only one problem, and even still, it's not perfect. I do want to finish this game eventually, so at some point, I'm gonna have to get better at prioritizing which problems to focus on. So even though I learned a lot from this little detour into making the graphics better, there's still a lot of game left to make, and I think I should shift my priorities into making something playable so you guys can actually try the game. I'll probably add some details because that's just modifying the sprites I already have in the game, but for now, I'm gonna make some good gameplay. And with that, go subscribe to everybody I mentioned in this video, and join the Discord. This is where I'm going to announce when I'm ready for playtesters, so if you want to be one of the first people to try Bird Game, make sure you join. And I'll see you in the next video, or on stream. I'm going to start streaming too now, so that's another way you can... okay, I'll go. Bye-bye.